my opinion, consumerization of B2B really means that an organization needs to answer two questions. First is, how is your product or service made and delivered? And two is, why should the end user care? I think, for a number of years, consumers have been becoming much savvier at choosing what they purchase and why they purchase, and that's because information has become increasingly accessible. And so if an organization can do a clear and simple job of answering those questions, all the better for them. In terms of an experience, that means that an organization really needs to demystify its behind-the-scenes process, because consumers and other businesses alike are increasingly interested in how an organization does what it does and why it does what it does. So I think making that process simple, clear, and easy to understand for any audience is key. I think companies and organizations that previously used to provide raw goods or commodities have recently been making that shift a lot. For example, if you think about a company like Pantone, about 10, 15, 20 years ago, it was primarily known sort of as a color company that was mostly used by designers and by production artists for paint chips and color identification. In the last few years, it's made a very interesting transition into sort of being a thought leader on color. For example, every year Pantone announces a color of the year. And this has a very fast trickle-down effect when beauty and retail companies will pick up that color of the year and incorporate it into what they do and into what consumers buy. And that's because Pantone decided to pivot from being solely a provider of paint chips to really an organization with a point of view on color, and specifically what they call color intelligence. The first thing is to sort of stop talking to yourself and really listen to what your users have to say. Organizations have a habit of focusing on what they're good at, but if they focus on sort of what the overlap is between what they're good at and what the world needs, that can be a very powerful combination. The second thing that organizations can start doing is to really seek inspiration in unexpected sources. And that means looking outside your direct competitive set for inspiration. So how do other companies do things? There's a lot to learn from others who think differently than you do. The third very important thing to do is to be prepared to make some tough decisions. Becoming a truly consumer-friendly brand can be a difficult thing to do, and that may mean hiring different sorts of people who are more in touch with how consumers think and act. It may be changing your process and how you're used to doing things, and I think if you can really commit to making actionable change, that can make consumerization very powerful.